Foreign Minister, what are the chances that there will be more sanctions to Russia, either today at the Foreign Affairs Council or at the EU summit on Thursday?
First, I would like to expect more changes in the policy, because we're not proud about sanctions, we're not proud about this language, and this is like last resort. If you're not listened, if your message is not taken, and I see, unfortunately, that situation is not changed. And as I said, not once. You cannot be aggressor in Ukraine and peacemaker elsewhere. And this is happening to be true. And even those who were believers of constructive approach losing now their temper and accusing Russia for war crimes, and very hard accusations, by the way, and thinking about additional sanctions because of Syria. It's not our, so to say, initiative, but I do understand these initiatives, and we will see. First of all, it's important to assess the situation adequately, not wishful, guided by wishful, so to say, imagination, and to assess as it looks like. And it looks like very sad. Humanitarian catastrophe may be the worst after Second World War. Deliberate bombings of hospitals and other civilian institutions, it's a really crime, and they should be accountable for that. So role of United Nations also quite difficult because of veto right in Security Council. So we really have it undermines, by the way, belief, not just because of United Nations activity, but also undermines belief in the international community, because, you know, endless meetings, summits, family photos, but people are dying every day as we speak. So it raises some questions, what we can do as international community. It's very, very sad. So first of all, we have to assess the situation adequately, to say what's happening, and to assess the role of the players, which is not always possible to do, because somebody would like to say that we have to preserve these channels of communications, to believe that this is possible, to have something constructive from that side, but I see this not coming because different goals to be achieved. So sanctions, it's a logical way to go, because it's the only way we are using, the only leverage we are using in this pressure. But to keep pressure, it's needless to say, it's a must. It's a must, because otherwise we cannot expect any changes on the ground.
So you are actually expecting some sanctions?
Yeah, I can expect or not expect, but we have to agree. We have to agree, first of all, on the assessment, and then to agree what we can do. So with regard to what we can do, it's the only way we can do it's sanctions. So I believe this is logical, and those who are raising these issues, I do understand the arguments behind.
But is there consensus, you think?
We will see, we will discuss. You can follow comments in the public, you know, in the press, and you see that there is not unilateral, united, so to say, unified view. There are nuances, so to say, but this is important not to lose time, because, as I said, we are speaking, but people are being killed.
Looking back at the last 4 years, it's been a very momentous time in especially EU-Russia relations. Where did the EU go wrong when it came to its relationship with Russia, with Moscow? Well,
EU did the best probably possible, because we have 28 players, you know, different views and understanding. But also it's a power when you're deciding jointly something, so it's really a power of decision. But also it's a very big challenge to reach the decision, sometimes too much time for that, you know. And we're doing something too little and sometimes too late. So this is the main. Sometimes we're losing grip, frankly. And if we would be able to give visa-free, for instance, a year ago, but we are doing just thinking now, right, for Georgians, Ukrainians, this is not good. Or association agreements, it's obviously they're working, they're really adding value. Also, it's not just symbolism, but also practical matter. It's not just politics, also money, it's trade. For instance, during the first part of this year, our trade of majority of European countries, trade with Ukraine doubled even. So it's a very tangible outcome, but still we are not able to finalize somehow. So we're really lagging behind. So this time perception is really very important for the future challenges of EU, to remain capable to act in time and properly, not too little.
But has Brussels been naive in its dealings with Moscow?
It's not just Brussels, also nations, you know, because Brussels just Brussels, but we are designing our position jointly, and sometimes we have different expectations, maybe some national expectations, and it seems that really some problems becoming more tangible and visible when they're coming closer to us, you know. When they're in the distance, or has to do with somebody else, not with us, it looks like not existing at all, something happening in different planet. It was same with the Russian aggression in Ukraine. You remember at the very beginning there was local conflict, or even it was called like Ukrainian conflict, what we tried to correct. It's not Ukrainian conflict, it's conflict against Ukraine, so let's call it as it looks like. But only when it passes through some sensitive, so to say, segments of our own perception, like let's say now in Syria, we're starting to call actions as war crime. It was never before, I believe, as far as I remember. After Cold War, nothing related was happening. Do we need really these stresses, these dramas, these killings in order to open eyes and realize adequate the situation? It's also a question. So it's not just Brussels, it's us. It's not about them, what they are doing, but also about us. And I said also not once, we cannot blame ourselves for aggressions, for annexations, because we are not doing that. But we should share responsibility of these things happening because of our non-doing something, because of our inaction when we needed to act. And we should share. So we are not guilty, but we should share responsibility. It's not very comfortable to understand that, but it's important to understand that in order to avoid something in the future.
You were one of the key people when it came to the Eastern Partnership Summit in Vilnius. That was a very momentous meeting. Could anything have been done differently? Should the Eastern Partnership have been designed in a different way? Or do you think it was and still is the right design for these 6 post-Soviet countries?
You know, 6 countries are very different, and even now they are very different. You know, one of these 6, let's say Armenia, they made U-turn before the summit, you remember. And we didn't make any drama out of that. We just tried to adjust the situation and said that, okay, we will respect any views and we would like to engage our partners. We'll go so far as they are going to be ready to go. And this is our approach. I believe it's a decent and right approach. And frankly, Eastern Partnership was a very good instrument invented. Again, nothing revolutionary. It's just practical say about the right to choose. Because we are saying that countries, they have right to choose, right? The direction, the way to go. And this format was really created for the partners to find the place in the dialogue with the European Union. And some of them, they wanted to be members, some not, and will never be probably. But this was a really very, very unique instrument. I believe that was a very, very right approach. At the same time, very challenging, because the attitude was different. We looked at these partners as really free countries to choose, and also ready to assist them, those especially who are ready to receive more. But some our opponents, they took that as a challenge to their vital interests, and in the vicinity or proximity, or in the backyard, as they still consider some countries, right? So that was different approach, and we must change that. We have to say that it's no go in 21st century to redraw borders of Europe because you don't like it. We have to do that. We're not always doing that in time again. Not just us, all international community, and that this is bad precedent for the future.
But do you really feel that the EU has the tools to challenge Russia when it so transgress like this?
Because it's a major player in the world, not only political but economic, and it's really not just 500 million citizens, but it's really a big bulk of the economy, of the world economy, and we do have leverages, especially if it's in coordination with the United States, another power of the world, and this is taking place, by the way, as we speak again. Somebody can criticize, not sufficient or whatever, but this is going on. And I believe it's important in the future to preserve these ties, this coordination, and to provide this joint message. Again, nothing to do with aggressiveness. Nobody wants to humiliate anyone here or to punish. It's just a matter of principle. We must act and communicate and have relations based on value-based approach, value-based foundation, not to lose it, not to go to cynicism, not to go to the area of interest at the expense of values. This is our responsibility. If we'll lose that, if we'll give up, if we'll retreat, then we'll face big problems in the future. And this is for us, for international community, for NATO, for European Union, for United States to realize. Because what is happening, it's very symptomatic. It could be proliferated in the future elsewhere in other regions. And then we will ask ourselves why it's happening. Again, I would say, unfortunately, it's happening because of our inaction when we needed to act in time or do something in time.
You're considered to be one of the last few hawkish foreign ministers in this Foreign Affairs Council. Your future as foreign minister is a bit clouded, let's put it that way, in mystery at the moment. Do you fear that the Foreign Affairs Council, the EU Foreign Affairs Council, will be even weaker when it comes to Russia in the next few years?
It would be a very difficult mistake to think about possibility to be irreplaceable or something. Life is adding all spices, usually to the reality, and there's always something coming up. I don't agree that I'm hawkish, because I'm really trying to be consistent. I'm trying to remind our own commitments. I'm trying to remind what we all agreed all together, which is nothing to do with any offensive. As I said, I believe it's could be considered as not very helpful, to put it mildly, if you're not consistent, if you're not acting as agreed, if you're questioning your own credibility, basically. And how you can expect that others will respect what we are doing if we do not respect ourselves what we are doing sometimes and deciding. That's the point. So I hope in the future we'll realize that, because the incentives are here. We shouldn't look for that. Incentives are to preserve our unity, our house in order, our so to say, institutions. Otherwise, we will really lose our relevance in the world, which we are not going to do, I hope, right? Because European Union is really a major player in the world, must remain as that, has a full potential and capabilities to develop that. But it's not a given. It's not just going by itself. It should be realized that we must act, and we should be proactive or not reactive. We should be, to provide with our own narrative or not wait when clouds will come and then we have to be defending our, so to say, values, defending our stance. And also, what is very important, it has to do with the resilience gap between institutions and citizens. Let me add this point. It's obvious that some people at large, they do not know what European institutions are doing, what they are for. And this is a big problem for the future, for sustainability of what we're doing, for motivation, sometimes for political motivation to take decisions. And here we have a situation when, for instance, in Dutch government, they have a problem now how to go out of the situation created by the so-called referendum. And 2 million made their minds, and 500 million now should wait what will go out of that. And it has to do with the lack of resilience, I would say, because people, they didn't know what they are deciding for. They are not informed. It's not a big secret. They told themselves. And it was nothing to do with Ukraine by far. And they also told organizers they just wanted to punish their own government. But how you can take hostage the third country, which is a fate for them, which people were dying in the capital with the European Union flags for this hope to get closer to the European Union, to take this country as a hostage and to solve all problems. Is it democracy? I can ask you. Probably not. We cannot be proud about that, right? We should think how it could happen. And this is also because of the gap, because of the vacuum sometimes between actions of institutions and public at large. We have to draw some lessons from that.
But okay, as a final question, you mentioned this now, the Dutch referendum on the Ukrainian Association Agreement. How can we solve this issue then?
It should be solved by Dutch government, I believe, not us.
And how should they solve it?
With respect to decisions which were already taken, and all parliaments, all 28 parliaments, including Dutch parliament, already ratified. So this is some special case, not comfortable, but I hope the Dutch government will find solution, not ruining our signals which were sent so far, our value-based approach, and hope, not ruining the hope of Ukrainian people. And I hope they will not do the job what was not able to do Yanukovych, by not signing. And 4 years later, after all this turmoil and mess and bloodshed and difficult situations, we will not do the same, so to say, job ourselves, by own hands. I hope not. So I really do believe that the Dutch government will find a solution.
Linas Linkevicius, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.